Welcome back, guys, to NZ Motor Customs. So this morning we're going to try and get that flywheel and clutch bolt to the motor. Whenever we sort out here first, just put all this paint shit away from yesterday, so I got a bench again. I'll reassemble my gun. Since it's had a bit of a soak overnight. Everything over there that I painted yesterday looks good. At least it's in power again this morning. Didn't get power back until about 5 o'clock at home. It was basically out through the whole, actually it was a whole freaking, whole huge, well, a pretty big area it was actually out for. Like quite a lot of the local districts, areas around the little town that I'm in, like the little town that I'm in is only like 2 or 3 minutes away from here, but yeah, it was like went right out around quite a lot of the rural properties around the little town. So yeah, basically everybody was out for power for a good 4 or 5 hours, I guess, thereabouts. Yeah, 4 hours, 3 hours, somewhere around about there. But yeah, everything else looks good there. But I'll just leave that alone. I'm not going to move it until probably Monday or something like that, just so I'm not handling it. You know, the paint should be fairly hard now, but yeah, I'd just rather not handle it too much until give it another day or two to cure. It's actually quite a bit cool this morning. I'm actually glad I painted it yesterday. That wasn't ideal with all that wind, but because that wind was coming from the north, it was dragging heat down from obviously up the equator part of it, and it was pulling a whole lot of heat, warm temperature down. Like we almost got to 20 degrees C yesterday, which is pretty unheard of at this time of year. Pretty weird. You know, we're like really in August. We don't really start warming up here normally until sort of mid-September. It's when we sort of like the temperatures start to rise again. You know, we sort of normally would stay, I don't know, like, normally at this time of year, if we got the sun out, you know, we might get to 7 or 8 degrees C, like on a good day. But if it's been cold and frosty and crappy, you know, like, you know, it might struggle to get, you know, 1 or 2 would be the norm about this time of year. So it's really unusual to have we had a couple of warm days. The day before was a little bit warm too. It must have been still starting to get the start of that warm breeze from the north. Yeah, and then it came up really quite windy yesterday. That's why we ended up with power out about, it was about 2 o'clock or whatever, but after 2. So yeah, it was just strange to have that sort of heat, but it was a good opportunity to get this painted. You know, I flipped the heater on for a wee while just to make sure it did stay hot in here, just in case it cracked itself and, you know, got really cold. But it didn't do that until later on. Last night it was actually still freaking pretty warm inside. Last night, even at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, it wasn't until early this morning it started cooling down again, which is pretty odd for this time of year. But you know, we'll have a quick clean up here. We'll drag the flywheel and everything around there, and we'll have a bit of a sort out and get that. Right there. On there. So yeah, we'll have a bit of a sort out here. We'll clear some space, get all that over here. We'll split the clutch off and get it bolted on. Alrighty, so before I obviously put the flywheel and stuff on, I've got to put the valve housing on, and I'm going to do a few other little things and just check a couple of things. For one, I've never set the distributor to number 1, so I'm going to pull the side cover off, work out when we're on number 1, pull the plug out, make sure we're at top dead centre. At least we get that pointing close to number 1 on the distributor. That's sorted because then obviously put I need to shift the blocks a little bit forward so I can put the valve housing on because it comes underneath here. I actually need to put 1 more of these bolts wherever that is. Yeah, we'll get a lot of these last little bits assembled today, well, as much as we can anyway. So we're ready to put. Now then we can do the last assembled stuff on the gearbox too when we get the clutch bearing and the housing there. So first of all, we'll get this round where we think number 1 is. Because there's no time in March, there's none of that shit. It's all behind the front cover. There's no, there's no harmonic balancer with a frickin' indicator on it or anything like that. So from the outside, it's fucking guesswork, if you know what I mean. We'll pull this off. Right, I'm going to try, so that's the intake opening, or closing, whatever you want to call it. Right, so what I've done back here, this is just to try and help me visualise. I've got a bit of frickin' brass rod in the welding rod in the top, just so I can feel the piston going up and down. And obviously we can visually see the valves opening and closing. So basically I'm going to turn the crank until I can feel the piston come down on the intake side of it, and then obviously on the exhaust side of it, and just see where that points so I can get a bit of an idea to find out where the centre is, to try and find a close reference to top end centre. And then obviously we can set the distributor somewhere close, if you know what I mean. And at least then we're in the ballpark to try and, at least when we're ready to fire it up, it's close to being at number 1, top dead centre. We know we're, not far off. And then we can probably do a little bit of tweaking with timing, on the distributor, a little bit backwards and forwards, advance or retard it when we come to fire it up. But as long as we can get it close, we'll be, because like I said, there's no indicator on the front to say that it's, this is where top dead centre's meant to be. No fucking clue. Not without pulling the front cover off, I don't think. And I haven't dived into it, so we're just trying to use as much information as we can of what we can see. Right, so now we play here. So on the back of the block I've marked with the blue pen where this feels like it's, when I know that's closed, but it feels like this is coming up close to the top end centre, you know what I mean? I'll keep lifting it up till I feel like I go that way. Yeah, close reference. So we know where this is on the verge of opening and closing, or piston going up and down. So we know that that's intake closed. If I go further the way, the exhaust opens. So we're on the are we on the right straight there? No, we're not, are we? We're on the I'm just going to think about this for a minute. No, we're 180 degrees out, aren't we? Just thinking about that, yeah, because that's the exhaust closing. So it's finished getting rid of the gases. And the intake open. Suck it back in here, so we're 180 out. Sorry. So in theory, somewhere between that mark and that mark, don't worry about it, and that was when I was 180 degrees out. So somewhere between here and here, this top dead center, so somewhere round about there. I think a bit more of a feel. We're only trying to get as close as possible, you know what I mean? You're right, so I think we're close to top dead centre. You know, it's a bit of a guessing game, but I think we're somewhere in that ballpark now. So we'll have a quick look here. Like really, any one of these could be number one. It doesn't really matter, I guess. Marko will point around here. So theory, this here is probably going to be number one. So yeah, at the end of the day, it can only line up with the slot that's on the distributor, if you know what I mean. There's only one or two directions, that way or that way. Pull that out. But only either be that way or that way. So we can adjust this on here and then lock it up. What I want to do is set it about there somewhere. It's all around. Really matter. Lock it up so it can't move. Put a wee dot in there so later on when we come, I remember that that's number one. Have to take the cap off the ground. So that'll be in the ballpark and we can just adjust it a little bit if we have to. Hopefully. So now we can put the bow housing in. I'll go up some hunt for some hardware and we'll come back to you shortly. Righty, so yeah, well, they seem to be lacking hardware in that sort of size department. So I'm a bolt short. Well, I've always been a bolt short. I thought I might have just wanted to hunt through all the bits and pieces that I've got here. All of my own able to find something, don't have anything. And to be honest, I'm not sure whether that should have flat washers or spring washers on it. So I'm going to go get another bolt, hopefully, and we'll get some flat washers and some spring washers, and we'll just see what that feels like. These are all wired, so they can't come loose anyway. So we might do that, and then so I have to be careful with the spacing. I'm guessing because if it's too far out, we'll end up fouling the back of the flywheel. So I'll get some flat washers and spring washers, and we'll just put them in there, wind them in there. I'll test the flywheel on there, and then make sure it doesn't foul on these heads. Yeah, just make sure that we're right there. It's not quite as just a simple little job just to throw this all together. It's, especially when you've never had it, I've never had it together properly. We definitely need some sort of spring washer or a flat washer at least in there. Wire. Once we know that that fits on there, it doesn't foul, we'll wire tie everything. Righty. So just got bolt and some spring washers and flat washers. I don't know if I need spring washers or flat washers, but I'm grabbing another can of frickin' black, just Reto can for maybe the last little bits and pieces I've got to touch up. But I just talked to the guy who's actually the machinist here this morning, which is really fucking great. I just talked to him about the clutch bearing and housing, because it's sitting in there waiting to be sorted. Because I talked to my father, because he used to run the truck museum here, and he's been a motor mechanic, I don't know, since the fucking 60s. So yeah, Dad said there's no side load on it, so it should be fine. He said even if it is a borderline, a little thin, he said it's only front and back pressure. The back of it's quite thick. We will have to take a minor skim out of it, but Dad said it should be fine. There's no side load, it's just pushing. And I was just talking to the machinist too, and he said, yeah, if it's only just pushing, it'll be fine. So yeah, he's going to actually machine that for me. He's going to skim that housing out and put the bearing in it this morning. So I better pick that up Monday morning and fucking put this car together, which would be a godsend. Because yeah, I am really, apart from a bit of polishing, at least we can actually start assembling shit. So that'll be absolutely fucking awesome. So anyway, I'll head back to work and we'll get these bolts fitted. I'll probably have to do a quick drill a hole through that so I can wire it with the rest of it, just to make sure it was wired. Like I could put Loctite on it, but if I can get a hole through there, yeah, should be able to. And we'll wire them all up like it was factory. It's a shame the head's not a wee bit thicker like the rest, but it'll be alright. See you there. So, got my hole drilled and bolt. I reasonably centered that side, but for some reason it didn't go centered that side. Because I put it in the drill press, but I couldn't get it sitting, I don't know, just didn't want to sit very square for some reason. I had a little block underneath it and wanted quite sitting level. But it can be wire tied with the rest, so that's all that matters. Now I'll see whether we need these or just these, or a combination of both, in the back of here. Make sure that this fits in here. So I'm going to do need two, make sure we're not too long, because this is very, very slightly longer than the rest. I think we're good. By the time we put a washer in there, we'll be good. That's right, don't need to shorten that. It is marginally longer. Marginally longer. That's right. Okay, not much. much. It's a bee's dick really. Like it's not really, but you know what I mean, like we're sort of half a thread, or maybe a full turn of the thread longer, but it doesn't seem to affect it, so. I don't know whether I should put a spring washer in there or a flat washer. Probably a flat washer, I think. We'll try both. At least the spring washer will help it stay tight too. But I just don't know whether we'll have any clearance issues with the back of the flywheel. We'll find out. And it's actually going to be interesting because this is a bit complicated. I didn't realise how freaking complicated. I was just looking at the PDF on the phone. Once it's complicated, you know what I mean? Like it's not just a like the regular clutch plate and pressure plate. It's a little bit more to it than that. Anyway, we'll test these in there, and then we'll test the that on there before we wire tie everything out. And not just flat washers. It's just catching. Well, there are two washers underneath there. No, I couldn't find the other one. Used to be fucking. Yeah, two washers underneath that one. They were all that one. Fine. I think all the rest may touch. May touch. What do you think about it? Oh, corresponds. I've got a PDF that shows a couple pictures. I'll just see whether I think maybe just the flat washer in there. Alright, hopefully I'm just not quite sure how I'm going to do this because it's an uneven amount of bolts. So I'm going to have to tie 3 together, and I guess 2 and 2. I'm guessing. So I might have to go do a bit of a weird loop. So if I can get a bit of wire back through one twice, I'm guessing. So can't turn. I don't know. It's the only thing I can sort of think of to do. A bit weird that it's like that, but it's one of those things, I guess. Anyway, what else do you do? Do some more reading. I'll have to do some more reading. There's a hole reader. I reckon if that will line up with that, that'll be number one. It wouldn't be far off if you turned that back. Lined up with one of those bolts. Might just have a bit more of this ready for the PDF, see if there's anything on timing this thing. But before I put this flywheel on permanently, yeah, just I might have to do a little bit more reading, I think. I was just trying to read the owner's manual, and it's got a piece about timing spark on it on page 30. And guess what? Page 30 is missing. That's fucking handy. Now I'll have a look at these PDFs. It goes from 24, I don't really realise because there's a few corners missing on pages, so you can't tell what the numbers are. It jumps from 24 to 37, so there's like a whole stack of wee pages in the middle that are missing, so it's really fucking handy, and it's all stuff to do with motor. Obviously setting spark and timing and all that sort of bullshit, so yeah, handy. We'll read some PDFs, see if there's anything in there. Right, morning guys, so welcome back again this morning. So, we have a clutch bearing and housing. Housing is sitting in front over the heater, and I've got the clutch bearing sitting away from the heater so it stays cool. We had a good frost, so it's not very warm here yet. We've got that housing heating up, so it expands nicely so we can push that bearing in easy. The other thing, I just bought myself another wide angle guide grinder. It's not a terribly expensive one. It was $45 here in New Zealand on special. I think it was normally about 50 something or about $60 I think normally. So yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the other new roll lock or disc on it. Now, there's a company here in New Zealand that makes abrasives. And they are Euromac, I think it's how it's pronounced. I've used their cutting discs before and I've done a little video. I'll link it here. Ages ago, Dad bought something. We were really impressed with them. But I didn't realise they made sticky back, Velcro back, like sanding disc from the DAs. They make roll locks, but they call them roll wrap, I think it is, discs. They're making 4s, 3s, 2s and whatever else, different bricks, different materials. So I'm going to get a hold of them today, hopefully, and see if I can get a bunch of, at least, roll locks off them, and I might, depending on how my budget goes and whether I can come up with a bit of a deal off them, and maybe get some 6-inch Velcro back sanding pads for the DA for the next job and test that stuff. I'll have a bit of a talk to them. I might get cutting discs and all that sort of stuff as well over time and just do a bit more of a review on them. But yeah, I'm really keen to see how they go because their cutting discs are really, really good. And to be honest, a lot of the stuff I've found here, apart from using 3M, is a bit average. Like those, all the Velcro DA pads have been okay, but I haven't used any 3M stuff, so I can't get into that. But I've used other bits and brands over time, and some of them are really average, and some of them are okay. So I'd like to try this stuff and see what the gear is like, and I'll do some reviews on it. So yeah, later on, a little bit later on today, I'm going to do that. But I'm going to get this bearing in the housing so I can get the gearbox together. We've got the motor on the floor, obviously, as you've seen, ready to go. Slide the box on. We've got a few bolts here that you can bolt it up with, and whatever. So yeah, we'll get that together, and hopefully by the end of the day, all things going well, we don't have any issues. We'll try and see if we can at least get the motor and box in. It should go, but you know, we've got to finish putting the box together and a couple other little bits and pieces. So we'll get the floor back out of the car, and obviously get it mated together. So yeah, got a couple of little things to do, but by the end of the day, we should be able to have at least that sitting in the hole and a couple of bolts and holding it in. So I got the bearing there. The housing over there warming up in front of that. I'm just going to grab a couple of bits and pieces just so I can push on it. So I can probably just use those. I should better use that ring sit on top of the bearing, and a couple of those blocks just to push it in. But hopefully with it being hot, should be able to slip in. We might just squirt a bit of frickin' CRC around the bearing or something like that just so it helps slide it in. And obviously then we'll have to take a bit of grease into it once I mix in there. So just get ourselves situated here a bit and we'll whip this together. Alright, we're going to take some grease. Right, so I got some grease in there. Typical. Got to turn the frickin' camera on. So yeah, got some grease in there. And I haven't got it. I've packed them pretty good around the bearing, but I've wiped a lot of the excess off. Obviously we'll have a bit in here, so that's what it is, a bit of lubrication for a start off. Now once that's got oil in it, a little bit comes out, will come up out of that hole in the front of the snout of the box. But that's good to go now. So now we need to put the put the clutch, shaft, and everything back in this box. Hopefully I can hold it like that. I have to run fucking... You can see, I don't know, on here, almost looks like the witness marks where they've maybe held it in the forge or chucked there, and then probably in here to turn this fucking thing. And it's just damaged the fucking threads on my thing when I'm going to wind it in because this is soft. Might just have to find a tap and run that through there and then just give it a spray out with some frickin' brake clean. Oh, that's funny. Alright, we've got that sorted. So I'm just trying to get this in the right orientation now. I just wonder if I just need to point it slightly uphill, I don't know. Right, I got this back to here, so I had to take that bit out. So now I've got to hook that back round over here. You can see where it's been. I didn't necessarily, because this wasn't on it when I originally pulled it apart. This spring here was sitting over with that stuff on that table when we sorted a lot of shit out. I spotted this a wee while ago because I was flicking through the PDFs and I spotted it had a spring on there, so I went hunting and found it. So I assume this is the right one and it looks like it's the right thing. So if I can get that hook back around in there, and then we'll have to wind the greaser piece of back on there, and we should be good to go, and then I can tighten that up. You just have to double check to make sure we've got the shaft in exactly the right place, but we can't be far away. Probably go through a little bit more maybe. Yeah. See if we can knock that through a little bit more, but yeah. We'll get that spring hooked through once we've got that shaft in the right place, otherwise it might be a bit of a bitch to move once it's got a fair bit of tension on it. Should have thought about it earlier, but yeah. Might just see whether there's a modern seal that'll fit in that. That might be worth just persevering. At least then I know it shouldn't leak like everything else. Right. Righty, so I've just cleaned up a heap of bolts to chase the threads and whatever, so I'm just going to chase the threads on the bow, I think, too. Because some of them don't feel that, well, they just don't want to line in that nicely, so it's easy to get them to clean out now. Right, we've got the floor and the firewall out, and all the stuff out around the pedals, except for the gasket that goes, you know, around that stuff to try and seal it up. So I think now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this area, like in the engine bay part of it, these bits down here, we'll give all this a scrub, get anything out of there that's not meant to be in here. These couple of bits and pieces shouldn't be doing anything else. Give it a scrub and a bit of a wash down and wipe down, and just make sure it is clean. Otherwise it's going to be a bitch to clean and get all the, what do I want to call it, polish and shit off there. So I'll give that a quickly rub and scrub and clean it up. Yeah, and then probably after lunch we will lift that bad boy in once I take the top off the gearbox. Just so the gear stick's not fucking poking into the firewall. I don't feel like touching too much up. But yeah, we're basically ready to go. taking the gear stick off, which I'll do just before we move it. So no chance of dust and dirt and shit getting in there. Once we're good to go, you may have to jiggle the axle stands. It's not really ideal doing it It's not really ideal doing it up on the axle stands. It's a bit of a funny one. I'd rather have wheels on it, but I don't have any fucking choice. I don't have wheels. But yeah, so that's all good. We'll just have to go easy, go gentle, and at least two of us here. The owner's going to give me a hand to lift it in. So yeah, we'll get it sitting in place. Get some bolts in it and go from there, I guess. And see how we get on.
Welcome to Iron Outlaws. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this.
Just waiting on hands to turn up now. Well, it's in all. It's in all. Right guys, so at the moment I'm sort of just, I guess you'd call semi-mocking things up because I'm just trying to work some of these bits and pieces out again. It's been a while since we were at this point, you know, when we were piecing this thing back together originally, you know, sort of throwing it together and working a few things out. And I do remember these rods here. So it's like there's a block of ball throttle, which apparently nobody really uses. That's probably why these aren't really badly worn out. But this piece here, this little ball socket thing is worn out. It does kind of stay there, but not very well, if you know what I mean. Put that back in there. But anyway, that goes in there. And there's another one, the same sort of thing, goes down here, which is the hand throttle, and then this would go in there. So if I poke that down there, there we go. So that would bolt through there, and then the ball on that, which is really badly worn, on this particular one, get in there. How's that not going in there? I had it in there before. But anyway, so that would normally fit in there, and that would be the hand throttle. So we'll pull it down. Guess it is. So that pulls it down. I've got to obviously put a pin through here and whatever. I'm just trying to work all this out so I can, if I need to do any more minor repairs while we're mucking around with all this stuff. Yeah, so I've got to try and work out what I can do to repair this, or replace it, or remake, or whatever. So obviously the carburetor's on the other side, so this linkage would pull back and hold this piece tight with the spring on it, and then the same on this end. Like we need to try and replace this and do something similar down here to replace the ball on there and socket. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at the moment. I've got a lot of bits and pieces on. Not a lot, but you know what I mean, like we bolted all this back on earlier. They've got the starter switch in there. Haven't got any cabling on there obviously because we haven't got to that side of it yet. This here's all going to have to come off because we've got to put a belt on here. So that's why I haven't really done any more with some of these little nuts and bolts. Like these ones here are done up, but hopefully we can just pop this linkage out of here. In here I've popped the floor back in. I don't know whether temporarily or not, but I cut the hole for the starter switch and that. Obviously we're going to muck around and put all this sort of crap back together. So I've sort of got that, it's just sitting in there in the meantime, so I could just work out stuff. Mainly I put it back in for this, so I could try and remember how all these linkages worked. This funny weird throttle setup. So yeah. So I'm going to take this with me, and the other one, just go have a waffle to the master, my father, who helped me put the clutch and everything on the other day, because he's just dealt with this stuff so much that, you know, I'm better off to, instead of frickin' humming and hawing, I can go pick his brain and he'll tell me where I can find some of the stuff. Put that back on there later. So yeah, I want to figure this stuff out, and then I can carry on putting more stuff on. Even if I can just figure out where I've got to get bits from. Or Dad might say, oh, you know, we had bits like that, we got them off such and such, you know, you can buy them new or whatever. They'll be around. Somebody somewhere will make that sort of stuff, or there'll be something close or whatever, you know, we'll work something out. It won't be too difficult. It's just a matter of I pick his brain because he's dealt with a lot of this old vintage stuff, trucks, whatever, cars for a long time. He'll know where to find bits and pieces like that. So yes, once I sort of get that a bit more sorted, then we'll come along here and we'll put a bit more of this crap together. We'll put the distributor back in. Got to put some hose clamps on here. You know, a few bits and pieces like that. Obviously, you know, once we put the radiator in, we'll probably be putting a hose down there. Got to put that switch back on the end of the steering column. You know, and obviously we've got to put all the rest of the floor back in, the pedals in, and obviously muck around with all the other stuff on the other side as well. But yeah, we're getting there. I also don't know whether I'm going to have to lift this at the front at all, so I haven't 100%, I haven't bolted that down hard. The bolts are in there and the nuts are all up hand tight, because yeah, when I put the valance in here and put the grill shed back in there, I don't know whether I'm going to have to try and lift that a little bit, if you know what I mean, to get everything to balance up. So it fits right. You know, there's a little bit of room, a little bit of wiggle in there. That video cut off. So there's a little bit of a wiggle room, hopefully, to lift this up and down, the motor up and down a little bit to get that grill radiator and bits and pieces and the front valance to all line up. So yeah, we're still going to put the starter in, still going to put the carburetor together. You know, there's lots of little bits and pieces, a few bolts and bits and pieces that I've obviously got to link short those linkages out. You know, and there's lots of bits and pieces in here to sort, you know, put back together. So yeah, but I need to get those linkages, throttle linkages sorted, and then obviously same on this side. Once I got the carburetor on there, get that side of it sorted. But yeah, hopefully the end of the week, maybe sometime once we get 90% or you get most of this engine gearbox stuff buttoned up, and obviously see how we'll get on with some of those other panels and get them on here. We might better fire it up. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. Please like and share and subscribe and leave a comment and all those sorts of other things. And yeah, maybe in the next video or two, see how the footage goes. But yeah, we might be trying this old bad girl up, see what this old 6-cylinder sounds like. Alrighty guys, cheers, thanks for watching.
Welcome to Iron Outlaws. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this.